This video is an introduction to strategy for the ERPsim manufacturing game. It is video 1 of 4, and of course I could throw all the videos together, and I highly recommend you see all of them, but then if you need to come back and watch a specific video, like maybe this overview video or one of the role-specific videos, you can come back and go right to the one that you're looking for. So this is video 1 of 4, and this is just an overview. So everyone on your ERPsim team should be watching this video and the rest of the videos, but the rest become role specific. This video is about the extended manufacturing game, though a number of things apply to the introductory game and also the advanced manufacturing game. It presumes that you have ERPsim experience, which of course implies SAP experience as well. Maybe you've played the distribution game. Hopefully you've completed SAP Labs from the textbook. And again, this is based off of the SAP Labs and textbook, 3rd edition. So Labs 1 through 3 and hopefully Lab 4 as well. You have some knowledge of the manufacturing game. Maybe you've played it once or twice, but you at least have been learning about it. And if you've completed Labs 1 through 4, you've certainly been touching a bit of the manufacturing game. So you have an idea of the basic company and the market setup, and also the production process as well. And there are videos about all of these things as well on YouTube. Congratulations on your new job. As of right now, you're an executive at a new manufacturing company. And what we're looking for is we're wanting to see how profitably you can manage and run your company. So you're starting out with a functional ERP system. So that's all working. You have best practices. And your team must run the entire company and make all top-level business decisions. There are a number of different business decisions and processes and tasks along the way, and it's broken down into various roles. I'm not going to go into the details here, but realize we're going to cover all of this within the manufacturing game. Happily, a lot of this is automated by ERPsim, so we're using an actual SAP ERP system as our interface and also to receive our data. But a lot of the minutiae, the repetitive tasks, are automated. Within your team, you're going to be breaking into different roles. Now, you might have one person on your team, which means you're doing all of this. You may have 5 people on your team, which means that you're going to have to spread out a bit. But realize that there are essentially 4 major roles within the ERPsim manufacturing game. And this video is going to give you an introduction to the manufacturing game, and then subsequent videos will give you more details about each one of these roles. Your competition within the simulation is other teams that are participating. It might be 1 or 2 teams, it might be 10 teams. They are all your competition. Now, in addition to that, you have other competition. The simulation is built so that it's reacting like an actual market would react. So your customers will import, meaning if you price too high, they're not going to buy from you. And if you run out of stock, they're going to import it from someone else. So there is also an import category within this. So that is your competition. When you start the simulation, and every time the simulation is started, every time you are round 1, day 1, there is no information available. There's no historical sales. And every time the simulation is started, market preferences are reset. So every time you're trying to figure out which products do people like. So remember, there's no historical sales data round 1, day 1. So what do? You have 6 different products and 2 different sizes. Hopefully you're familiar with these already. So it's all muesli products, and then there's the ½ kilogram and 1 kilogram boxes of the muesli. Every single one, these are the requirements, and you can find this also on the job aid. The minimum requirements are on the job aid. Each one also needs a box and a bag. They are all sold within the German market. There are 3 regions within the German market. So there's the north, the west, and the south, and there are 3 distribution channels. The regions have product preferences, so they like a certain product. And again, this is what is reset every time the simulation is started. So round 1, day 1, all of those market preferences will be reset. Within the regions, you can do marketing. We'll talk about that in another video. But the marketing is regional. If you are marketing a specific product within one region, just that region is seeing the marketing for that one product. There are 3 distribution channels, and we'll talk about that in another video as well. The pricing is across all of Germany. So the distribution channels are all of Germany, and there's 10, 12, and 14. When you set a price in distribution channel 10, that is across all 3 regions. The sales reports will note the distribution channel and the region, so you'll be able to see your sales where they're taking place. Other information, and again, some of this should be some review since you're already somewhat familiar with the manufacturing game. But there are 2 raw material vendors, Continental Printing, and they provide boxes and bags. And then there's Food Broker Inc., who provide the food raw materials. Both of these vendors require lead time, and that vendor lead time is listed on the job aid. It's 1 to 5 days. There's a total market within this, and if you take a look at the job aid, you'll see for each one of the distribution channels how much market there is. Realize that every time a new team is added, so this is where we're kind of outside of reality. In reality, in Germany, there would only be so much of demand available, and if there's too much competition, well, somebody's not selling. Within the ERPsim simulation, every time we add another team, the market actually expands. So if there are 10 different teams, there is enough for all 10 teams to be able to be profitable. If it's down to 3 teams, it contracts down to 3. So it's always proportionate to the number of teams that are configured. So just realize that and take a look at the job aid, the participant's guide, to read more about that. You have production capacity, which is 24,000 units per day. That means you can only manufacture about 1,000 units per day. And there are more parameters within that, and that will be covered in another video. Having multiple distribution channels and regions and different product preferences means that you'll need multiple marketing strategies. And I'm using marketing there to cover both pricing, product, and the promotion part of things. So pricing is different, advertising is different based on distribution channel, based on the region. So marketing is more than set it and forget it. So you will probably be changing prices and adjusting marketing throughout the simulation. But in order to do that, you'll need to identify trends within marketing. So making pricing changes, and then also letting your production planner know, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're seeing, you might want to do this. But remember, production doesn't care who is buying. They don't care about the distribution channels or the regions. They're more interested in how many products do you need. So in thinking about this as an overall strategy within your team, the production constraints should be your sales constraints. And the textbook talks about this a bit. That really what you're kind of looking for is that your sales are about where your daily production capacity is. So in perfect production environment, you're doing 24,000 units per day. Depending on your team and your strategy, it might go below that. But if we just assume you're producing 24,000 per day, but you're selling 35,000 per day, production's not going to keep up. So you're going to need to rethink your strategy. Anytime there's a stock out, it is lost revenue. There are no back orders within the manufacturing game. And remember, there is no starting inventory round 1. So round 1, day 1, there is no starting inventory. How do you start? So think about this. You do have lead time with your vendors. So you can execute MRP and convert your purchase orders before the simulation starts. But then you have to wait for your raw materials to be delivered. Now throughout the game, it's 1 to 5 days, but those first 10 days of the simulation, it'll be delivered the next day. So if you've run MRP, you've converted your purchase requisitions to purchase orders, you can do all of that before the game starts, and then you would have everything delivered round 1, day 2. But then you still have to manufacture it. So you still have lead time in those first few days, but thinking it through later on within the simulation, it could be 10 days, 15 days, 20 days before you actually receive that finished product. So the lead time is going to make a difference when you're working through your strategy. If your best-selling product is not going to be completed for another 15 simulated days, that's lost revenue, that's lost product. Production scheduling. So converting production orders is actually a strategy. If your capacity is 24,000 units per day, and you're limited to 48,000 units per order, and there's mandatory setup time of 8 hours between products, you're going to have to think through, when are you converting your products? What is a good forecast? So this is all going to be talked about in another video and in subsequent videos as well. This is a big portion of your team's strategy, is actually getting through that production process effectively and efficiently and profitably. So remember, if you are trying to speed things up, MRP is just planning. If you are executing MRP too often, you're actually throwing off your production plan. So you have to wait for all of your raw materials to be delivered and then convert your planned production orders. If you're getting out of rhythm with that, you're going to slow your production. And you will see this if you're trying to run MRP too often, that you're not going to be able to convert your production orders, and that means downtime. The sole metric within the ERPsim manufacturing game is company valuation. A large portion of that is profit, and profit is very simple. It's your revenue, your sales, minus all of your expenses is the profit, or your net income. Company valuation also takes into consideration your asset management, what you're doing with your short-term assets, and then also your debt, your loan and liabilities. It's going to be well worth your time to understand how the company valuation is calculated so that you can make your decisions more strategically. And by that I mean so that you are positively affecting your company valuation. So don't forget, profit is very important. Every decision you make should either increase your revenue or decrease your expenses, preferably both. Now, again, there are multiple roles within this. There's the planner, the sales manager, the analyst, and the production manager. These roles are not set. I suggest that you figure out in your team who's going to do what. Again, it could be you doing all of it, depending on how your team is set up. It could be two different people. But these are the different roles you need to be thinking about. These are the different ways you need to be thinking about your strategy within these roles. Now, again, these roles are not set. If you decide in your very first game who's going to be the production manager, who's going to be sales manager, and then a couple of weeks into it you say, maybe we should switch. Switch. You don't want the wrong person in the wrong role. So if the person doing production isn't keeping up with it, you might want to say, you know what, maybe somebody else should try this. So realize the roles are not set within this. If you've watched my videos, and hopefully you have, you probably remember this slide. So I'm talking about different ways of how management works, and ERP comes in and makes it possible. So it's sharing from all the different functional areas and the upper management. Everyone has all of the information that they need. So this is an important part. This is what an ERP system is doing, and that's what ERPsim is based off of, is providing the correct information for everyone who needs it in real time when they actually need it. Taking that a step further to your group, the different roles will also have access to all of the information necessary to complete their roles, but you also have to communicate. So if you're doing, so the typical ERPsim simulation is about 1 minute per simulated day. All of the roles within your group need to be talking in real time within each minute. So as you are coming up with, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening next, you have to communicate. The system is only partially communicating for you. You also need to talk. So this is video 1 of 4. The following 3 videos will give an overview of the roles. So there's the next video, video 2 is going to be production manager, then sales manager, and I'm combining the analyst and planner because they are very similar in their tasks. They're separate videos, but really these are for everyone. So I highly recommend that everyone cross-trains, understands their role, other people's roles, the limitations, and again, 2 heads are better than 1. So someone who's doing production may not be the best one for it, or maybe they need a little bit of guidance. Somebody else might see something they're not seeing. So I highly recommend that you watch all of the videos. In going through all of this, realize that there is no such thing as a guaranteed winning strategy. I've in the past had students from previous semesters tell current students, hey, do this, do this, do this. And then they tell me, hey, you know, that other team told me this and we're not doing well. Right. The strategies are dictated by your team's strengths and weaknesses. Everyone has different experience. Everyone has a different background. Sometimes the winning strategy for one team took many weeks of practice to reach that point. Well, if you don't have that practice, you don't know what built up to that winning strategy. It also depends on your competition. A less competitive group allows 1 or 2 teams to really go through and come up with a winning strategy and take advantage of demand. A highly competitive group really gets down to product choice and price. And this can be seen. The very competitive, like the ERPsim competitions that take place, the international competitions, every last cent everyone's fighting for. In those cases, some of the winning strategies in a less competitive group don't even apply. There's no point in doing it. You're wasting your money. So just realize there are a number of different things that come together to make a winning strategy. I often have at the end of the semester students say to me, "So how do you win?" "Well, it depends." Nobody likes that answer, but it depends. It really does depend on everything that's happening. And if I were to tell you what I think would be a good idea, it might not work for your team. It's really just a matter of going through and coming up, talking with each other, and quantifying strategies. Keep in mind the nature of the ERPsim manufacturing game. The simulation itself starts with more demand than supply. So the way that it is set up, if every team were to go through, and if you think about economics, how the demand and supply come together and there's that perfect price point, if every single team were to come up with the perfect product choices, so the supply was there and the perfect price, everyone would be able to make the exact same amount of money, the exact same amount of income, the exact same amount of profit. There is actually more demand than supply built in. So the demand curve is actually at a point where supply can't keep up with it. So realize it is impossible for that to happen, that everyone is competing at the exact same level. The more teams you have, the more diverse that's going to be. But if you go through and you think about this and quantify and qualify, you're really going to go ahead of everybody else. So if only 1 out of 10 teams is going through and quantifying and qualifying their decisions, trying to figure out how to get more of that demand, how to have more supply to get more of that demand, there will be one clear winner and the rest will not do well. So as you work through this during future simulations, note the team in first place and ask why. They might not even know why, but it's highly unlikely that the winning team is just winging it. They probably have some sort of a strategy, and as they develop more information and as they develop more of a strategy and quantify it, they'll probably do better and better. So within your team, talk through your strategy, quantify your strategies, and keep this in mind. The simulation is only available during your scheduled simulation. You need to spend time outside of class, outside of the simulation. So within my classes, I keep the data available for about 2 weeks after the simulation. You can log back on and take a look at it. Whatever your class might be longer, might be shorter, but just find out. It's usually available longer. Log back in. Get that information. It's too much information to just really work through and digest through within an active simulation, especially if you're doing the typical 1 minute per simulated day. Sometimes the longer simulations you can get away with trying to digest it all in one time. But if you're doing a shorter one, it's really begging you to go back in and take a look at the data and figure out what's going on. And I can tell you from years of experience, there is a clear difference between the winners and the losers. Did you work on ERPsim outside of the simulation? Those who did always do better. So as you divide roles, realize that the production and sales roles are more active during the simulation. So those 2 people, or maybe it's 1 person, are going to be very active. So whatever's under those kind of categories, there's a lot going on during the simulation. The planner analyst roles should spend more time outside the simulation. And it's more so maintaining and giving, this is what I found with the new data. So realize production and sales are more active during the simulation. Planner analyst is more active outside of the simulation, providing feedback during the simulation. So realize everyone needs to contribute while the simulation is active. The planner analysts feed into the real-time production sales decisions. Better planning analysis outside of the simulation makes those decisions easier. And if you only have 1 or 2 people on a team, realize that you're going to be doing a lot of the production and sales roles during the simulation and then doing the planning and analyzing outside of the simulation, trying to set up analytics that make it easier. For everyone, have the manufacturing game job aid handy. I highly recommend that you print it. It is too much on your screen to have the PDF and then SAP and then any kind of analytics tools you might have. It's way too much. Print it, have it in front of you. Remember that the job aid assumes you know what you're doing. So it's just an overview. It's a kind of a quick review of these are the steps to do it. So just realize that it's not detailed enough. You have a full number of resources, including the job aid, which again is more for during the simulation, quick, easy lookup. But the participant's guide, the manufacturing game slides, those go into far more detail. Now these are published by ERPsim themselves. They are not meant to be, kind of teaching you what the different concepts are. That's for your instructor to teach, or for your business degree program, whatever it is that you're doing, your engineering program. It's more so a very detailed description of everything that is happening. My textbook, the third edition of the textbook, has sections on the strategy, sections on the production process. It's meant to teach you more of those things. It's kind of a, on top of the participant's guide, giving you more of the details of how things are working together. There's also my YouTube videos. Subscribe. I like having subscribers. I have all these people viewing my videos and no one subscribes. And there's also other people's videos. I don't think that there are many other videos that are as up to date as my videos. I try to keep mine up to date with the new systems, but someone else might have a strategy video out there that might pertain to what you and your group are doing. In addition to all of that, realize this is video 1 of 4. The next video 2, will go into the production manager role and kind of get into some of the strategies specific to it. Then the sales manager role for video 3, and then I'm combining the planner analyst together into video 4.